Have you ever noticed how time seems to speed up as we get older? One moment you're chasing your kids around the backyard, and the next, you're watching grandchildren grow taller than you remember. And somewhere along the way, life can start to feel, well, a little overwhelming. Not because of what's happening around us, though there's certainly plenty going on, but because of how it all feels on the inside. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Mindfulness. Isn't that for people with yoga mats and meditation cushions? Well, let me tell you something, it's not just for 20-somethings or monks living high up in the mountains. Mindfulness is for all of us, especially those of us who have lived long enough to know that peace doesn't always come easily, and that happiness sometimes hides in the quietest moments. What if I told you that one of the most powerful tools for finding calm, joy, and contentment in this stage of life isn't some expensive gadget or complicated routine, but simply learning to be more present? That's right, mindfulness. It's not about stopping your thoughts or pretending everything is perfect. It's about showing up for your own life with awareness, kindness, and intention. And trust me, it's never too late to start. This video series will walk you through exactly how mindfulness can become your secret ally in creating a more peaceful and fulfilling life, no matter where you are, no matter what you've been through. We'll talk about practical ways to bring more presence into your daily routine, how to manage stress and emotions with grace, and why being mindful can actually improve your health, relationships, and overall sense of well-being. But before we dive into all that, let's take a step back and really explore what mindfulness is and why it matters so much at this point in our lives. So here's the first thing. Mindfulness helps you reconnect with the present moment. As we age, it's easy to spend a lot of time looking back or worrying about what's ahead. I've talked to so many people over the years who say things like, "I wish I could slow down time," or "I want to enjoy every moment before it's gone." But how often do we actually do that? The truth is, our minds are constantly wandering. We're replaying conversations from yesterday, planning what we need to do tomorrow, or even reliving memories from decades ago. While reflection and planning are natural and important, when we spend too much time in our heads, we miss out on the only moment we truly have, this one. And that's where mindfulness comes in. It gently brings us back to our breath, to our surroundings, to the simple act of being alive. You don't have to sit cross-legged for an hour or chant mantras unless you want to. All it takes is a few minutes each day to pause, breathe, and notice what's happening right now. Let me give you an example. Think of the last time you had a cup of tea or coffee. Did you really taste it? Or were you scrolling through your phone, watching the news, or thinking about your to-do list while drinking it? Try this. Next time you make your favorite drink, sit down somewhere quiet. Hold the cup in your hands. Feel its warmth. Take a slow sip. Notice the aroma, the flavor, the texture. Just for a minute or two, give yourself permission to be fully present with that experience. It sounds simple, and it is. But doing this regularly can shift something deep inside. You start to realize how often you rush through life without really tasting it. And when you begin to slow down, even just a little, you open the door to more joy, more gratitude, and more peace. Now, here's another beautiful thing about mindfulness. It gives you space between your thoughts and your reactions. You see, as we get older, we accumulate experiences, some joyful, some painful. And sometimes, those old wounds or habits can surface unexpectedly. Maybe someone says something that reminds you of a difficult time, or you find yourself getting frustrated over something small. Without mindfulness, we often react automatically, saying something we regret, feeling overwhelmed, or spiraling into negative thinking. But when we practice mindfulness, we learn to observe those thoughts and feelings without immediately acting on them. Think of it like standing by a river and watching the water flow past. Instead of being swept away by every current, You learn to watch the water move, notice its shape, its speed, its color without jumping in every time. That's the power of awareness. It gives you choice. One of my favorite quotes comes from Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, who wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose." Isn't that profound? Even in the most challenging moments, we always have the ability to pause and choose how we respond, not just with our actions, but with our hearts. So imagine applying that principle to everyday life. When your neighbor makes a comment that rubs you the wrong way, instead of snapping back, you take a breath. When you feel anxious about your health or finances, instead of letting worry spiral, you ground yourself in the present. These small pauses add up to big changes in how you feel and how you live. And speaking of changes, here's one more reason mindfulness is especially valuable for seniors. It supports emotional resilience and mental clarity. As we age, our brains change. Sometimes we forget names, misplace keys, or struggle to focus like we used to. While some cognitive decline is normal, studies show that mindfulness practices like meditation and conscious breathing can help maintain brain health and even slow age-related changes. More importantly, mindfulness teaches us to relate differently to our thoughts. Instead of getting lost in negative loops like "I'm slowing down" or "I'm not as sharp as I used to be," we learn to notice those thoughts without letting them define us. It's like shining a light on the dark corners of your mind. Once you can see clearly, you realize that those thoughts are just passing clouds. They don't have to stick around forever. Now, I know this all sounds wonderful, but you might still be wondering, how do I actually start? Well, that's exactly what we'll cover in the next part of this series. But before we move on, I'd like to invite you to take a moment and reflect. Close your eyes for just a few seconds. Take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it for a beat, and slowly exhale through your mouth. Now, ask yourself, when was the last time I felt completely at peace? Don't think too hard, just let the answer come naturally. If you found that question meaningful, I encourage you to write it down in a journal or share it with someone you love. Because mindfulness starts with noticing what's already within you. Now, before we wrap up part 1, I want to take a moment to thank you for being here. If you're finding these ideas helpful, please consider subscribing to our channel. When you do, you'll be the first to receive new videos filled with wisdom, inspiration, and practical tips designed specifically for people like you, those who are embracing this beautiful chapter of life with curiosity and courage. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss an upload. Every week, we dive into topics like inner peace, self-discovery, and how to cultivate joy at any age. This is more than just a channel, it's a community, and I'd be honored to have you as part of it. All right, now that we've laid the foundation for understanding what mindfulness is and why it matters, in the next part we're going to explore some simple, everyday practices you can start today. No special equipment, no apps, no pressure. Just gentle steps toward a calmer, clearer, more connected life. So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll talk about how to bring mindfulness into your morning routine, how to turn ordinary activities into moments of peace, and why even 5 minutes a day can make a world of difference. Until then, take care of yourself. Breathe deeply. And remember, you're never too old to discover a new way of living that brings you more joy, more presence, and more peace. As we left off in part 1, we were just beginning to explore how mindfulness isn't something far away or complicated. It's actually quite simple and deeply accessible, especially at this stage of life. We talked about how mindfulness helps us reconnect with the present moment, gives us space between our thoughts and reactions, and supports emotional resilience and mental clarity. And I hope you had a chance to try that short reflection exercise, taking a deep breath and asking yourself when the last time was you felt completely at peace. That kind of gentle awareness is exactly where mindfulness begins. Not with perfection, not with hours of meditation, but with small moments of noticing. Now, let's take the next step together. In this part of the series, we're going to dive into some everyday practices you can start right away without needing any special tools, apps, or even much time at all. Because here's the truth. Mindfulness doesn't have to be dramatic or difficult. It thrives in simplicity. Let's start with something you do every day, maybe even several times a day. Walking. Walking is one of the most natural things we do. For many seniors, it's a form of exercise, a way to stay mobile, or simply a way to enjoy the outdoors. But what if I told you that walking could also become a powerful mindfulness practice? It's true. All it takes is a shift in attention. Next time you go for a walk, whether it's around your neighborhood, through a park, or even just from your living room to the kitchen, try this. Instead of thinking about what you need to do later, or replaying a conversation from yesterday, bring your attention fully to the act of walking itself. Feel your feet making contact with the ground. Notice the rhythm of your steps. Pay attention to the air on your skin, the sounds around you, the colors of the trees or sky. You don't have to walk slowly, though it might help at first, but you can walk with awareness. And that makes all the difference. I remember talking to a woman named Helen, who started practicing mindful walking after her husband passed away. She said she used to feel lost in grief, unable to focus on anything else. But by simply paying attention to each step, each breath, she began to feel more grounded, more connected, like she was still part of life, even in her sorrow. She told me, "I realized I didn't have to stop missing him to find peace. I just had to remember that I was still here, walking through the world." Isn't that beautiful? Grief and presence can coexist. So whether you're walking to stay active, to clear your mind, or just because it feels good, why not turn it into a moment of mindfulness? Now, another everyday activity that offers a perfect opportunity for presence is eating. Yes, eating. How often do we sit down with a meal while watching TV, reading, or scrolling through our phones? Or maybe we eat quickly, barely tasting our food because we're thinking about something else. But when we bring mindfulness to eating, we transform it from a routine task into a nourishing experience for both body and soul. Here's a simple way to begin. Before taking your first bite, pause for just a few seconds. Take a breath. Look at your food. Smell it. Appreciate its colors, its texture. Then, as you take your first bite, chew slowly. Really taste it. Notice the flavors, the sensations in your mouth. Are there layers of flavor? Is it warm or cool? Crispy or soft? This doesn't mean you have to do it every time you eat, just once in a while. Give yourself permission to savor your meal like it's something special. And you might be surprised at how satisfying even a simple sandwich or bowl of soup can be when you truly pay attention. Take a moment to think about your favorite meal, or snack, the one that always brings you comfort. Close your eyes for a second and imagine tasting it again. Can you almost feel the joy it brings? Now picture yourself enjoying it, mindfully savoring each bite, fully present. How does that feel? Bringing mindfulness into eating not only enhances enjoyment, but it can also support digestion, reduce overeating, and help us develop a healthier relationship with food. Another area where mindfulness can make a big difference is in how we interact with others, especially loved ones. Now, relationships are a big part of life at any age, but they can sometimes become more complex as we grow older. Maybe you've noticed that conversations with adult children, grandchildren, or friends can bring up old patterns, unspoken tensions, or expectations. And sometimes we react before we really listen. But what if, Instead of immediately responding with judgment or frustration, we pause just long enough to hear not just the words, but the feelings behind them. That's mindful communication. It starts with being present during conversations, putting down distractions, making eye contact, listening without planning what you'll say next. One gentleman I spoke with shared how he started practicing this with his daughter. He said they used to get into arguments easily. She'd share something about her life, and he'd jump in with advice or criticism before she even finished. Then, one day, he decided to try something different. When she spoke, he simply listened, fully, without interrupting. And when she was done, he asked, "Is there anything else you want to share?" He told me that in that moment, something shifted. His daughter looked at him with surprise and then gratitude, and they ended up having one of the deepest conversations they'd had in years. Mindful listening doesn't mean you agree with everything or that you never express your opinion. It means you create space for understanding, and that alone can soften even the hardest conversations. So, whether you're talking to a grandchild, a neighbor, or a lifelong friend, try bringing a little more presence into those interactions. You might be amazed at how much deeper the connection becomes. Now, before we move forward, I'd like to take a moment to thank you again for being here. If you've been enjoying these insights and practical tips, please consider subscribing to our channel. When you do, you'll receive regular updates filled with wisdom and inspiration tailored specifically for people embracing this beautiful chapter of life. Subscribing also helps us continue creating content that speaks directly to your experiences, challenges, and hopes. So if you've found value in what you've seen so far, a simple click will mean the world. All right, now that we've explored some everyday ways to bring mindfulness into movement, eating, and communication, in the next part of this series, we'll talk about how mindfulness can help with managing emotions, especially the ones that tend to show up more often as we age: loneliness, anxiety, and even grief. Because while mindfulness won't erase life's difficulties, it can change how we relate to them. And that, my friends, can make all the difference. So stay with me, we're just getting started. In part 2, we explored how mindfulness can be woven into everyday activities like walking, eating, and conversing with loved ones. These are simple yet powerful ways to bring more presence into your life, without needing any special tools or long periods of time. Now, let's take that understanding a step further and look at something many of us experience as we grow older: the emotional landscape of aging. We've all felt it at times: loneliness creeping in when the house feels too quiet, worry about health or finances, or sadness when remembering someone who's no longer here. These emotions aren't signs of weakness. They're part of being human, and they don't disappear just because we've lived a long life. But what if I told you that mindfulness can help you relate to these feelings in a different way, not by pushing them away, but by learning to sit with them gently, like a wise friend comforting another? Let me share a story. A few years ago, I met a retired teacher named Margaret. She had spent decades shaping young minds, surrounded by students and colleagues. But after retiring, she found herself feeling more isolated than she ever expected. Her children were busy with their own lives. Her friends were spread out or passing on, and some days, she said, the silence was deafening. She started meditating not because she thought it would fix everything overnight, but because she wanted to feel less afraid of the emptiness inside. At first, it was hard. Sitting still brought up old memories, worries about the future, even grief she hadn't fully processed. But over time, something changed. She began to notice that the loneliness didn't feel quite so heavy. It was still there, yes, but instead of being consumed by it, she could observe it like a passing cloud in the sky. I realized, she told me one day, that I wasn't alone in my aloneness. That phrase has stayed with me ever since. Because isn't that often the truth? We think we're the only ones struggling with certain feelings, when in reality, we all carry burdens, some just better hidden than others. This is where mindfulness becomes truly transformative. It doesn't erase our pain, but it gives us space around it. It teaches us not to fear our own inner world, but to meet it with kindness. So, how do you begin practicing mindfulness with difficult emotions? Here's a simple approach. The next time you feel overwhelmed by sadness, worry, or frustration, pause for a moment. Don't try to change the feeling right away. Instead, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Just naming the emotion can help. Then, place a hand on your chest or stomach and take a slow, deep breath in. Hold it for a beat, then exhale slowly. Do this a few times, staying present with whatever arises. You might find tears, tension, or even a sense of release. Whatever shows up, allow it. This is mindfulness, not fixing, not forcing, just being. Another powerful tool is mindful journaling. You don't need to write pages and pages. Just a few sentences each day can make a big difference. Try this. At the end of the day, grab a notebook or open a blank page on your phone or tablet. Write down 3 things you noticed today that brought you a sense of peace, joy, or gratitude, even if they were small. Maybe it was the sound of birds outside your window, a warm cup of tea, or the smile of a neighbor. Then, reflect on any emotions that came up during the day. Were there moments when you felt frustrated, lonely, overwhelmed? Write those down too, not to dwell on them, but to acknowledge them. Sometimes, simply putting pen to paper helps release what's weighing on your heart. I remember talking to a man named Frank, who used this practice after losing his wife. He wrote every evening, sometimes just a sentence or 2. After a few weeks, he told me, "It's like I'm learning how to live with this new version of myself." Writing helps me stay connected to her, to my memories, and to the life I still have. Isn't that beautiful? Mindfulness doesn't mean forgetting the people we love or pretending the past didn't happen. It means finding a way to carry those memories with grace. And speaking of carrying things, let's talk about how mindfulness can support physical well-being, especially as we age. Many seniors deal with chronic pain, stiffness, or fatigue. These experiences can be frustrating, even discouraging. But again, mindfulness offers a different relationship with discomfort. Instead of resisting pain or trying to ignore it, mindfulness teaches us to notice it without judgment, to explore how it feels in the body, where it's most intense, and whether it changes when we breathe deeply into it. Now, this doesn't mean mindfulness will magically eliminate physical pain, it won't. But it can reduce the suffering that often comes with it. Think of it like this. If pain is the actual sensation in your body, suffering is the mental and emotional reaction to it, the frustration, the fear, the why me thoughts. By bringing mindful awareness to pain, we learn to separate the two. We become observers rather than victims. And that shift can bring a surprising sense of relief. One woman I spoke with practiced gentle yoga, combined with mindfulness breathing, to manage arthritis. She said that while the pain never completely went away, she stopped dreading it. Now, she told me, I know I can sit with it. I know I can breathe through it. And that makes all the difference. So whether you're dealing with joint pain, fatigue, or just the natural slowing down that comes with age, consider giving mindfulness a try. Even just 5 minutes a day, focusing on your breath and how your body feels, can help you feel more grounded and less at war with yourself. Take a moment now to check in with your body. Are there places where you're holding tension? Where do you feel relaxed? Take a few slow, deep breaths and imagine sending warmth and kindness to any area that needs it. Just a few seconds of care can go a long way. Before we move forward, I want to thank you again for being here. If you've been enjoying this journey into mindfulness and finding value in these insights, please consider subscribing to our channel. Every week, we bring you content designed specifically for people who are embracing this stage of life with wisdom, curiosity, and heart. Subscribing ensures you'll never miss a new video filled with practical tips, personal stories, and inspiration tailored to your experiences. So if you haven't already, I'd be grateful if you took a moment to hit that subscribe button and maybe even share this series with a friend or loved one who might benefit from it too. All right, now that we've explored how mindfulness can support emotional resilience, deepen self-awareness, and even improve our relationship with physical discomfort, in the final part of this series, we'll wrap things up by looking at how to create a sustainable mindfulness practice, one that fits naturally into your daily life. We'll also review everything we've covered so far and give you a few actionable steps you can start implementing today, no matter where you are on your journey. So stay with me, we're getting ready to close this chapter with clarity, inspiration, and a little bit of magic. As we left off in part 3, we were exploring how mindfulness can help us navigate the emotional and physical changes that often come with age, offering a kinder, more accepting way to relate to loneliness, grief, pain, and even the natural slowing down of life. We've covered a lot together in this series: how mindfulness brings us back to the present moment, gives us space between our thoughts and reactions, supports emotional resilience, and helps us engage more fully with everyday experiences like walking, eating, and talking with loved ones. Now, in this final part, I want to leave you with something deeply practical, a few simple yet powerful ways to make mindfulness a consistent part of your daily life, without pressure, perfectionism, or overwhelm. Because here's the truth: mindfulness isn't about doing it perfectly, it's about showing up gently, again and again. And consistency matters not because you'll suddenly become a master of peace, but because over time, these small moments of presence add up to real transformation. So let's start with one of the most accessible tools for building a sustainable mindfulness practice: the breath. Yes, your breath, the thing you do automatically, all day long, can be your anchor to the present moment. You don't need any special training or equipment. All you need is awareness. Here's a simple practice to try. Set aside just 2 minutes each morning to sit quietly and focus only on your breathing. Inhale slowly through your nose, feeling the air fill your lungs. Then exhale gently through your mouth, releasing any tension you might be holding. Even if your mind wanders, and it will, that's okay. Just notice when it drifts and gently bring your attention back to the breath. Do this every morning, maybe while sipping your first cup of tea or coffee. It doesn't have to be fancy or formal, just a quiet moment for yourself. After a week or two, you may find that those 2 minutes turn into 5, or that you begin to reach for your breath during stressful moments throughout the day, when waiting in line, when someone says something frustrating, or when you feel overwhelmed. That's how mindfulness grows, not in grand gestures, but in tiny, intentional choices. Another gentle way to build mindfulness into your routine is through gratitude reflection. Now, I know gratitude is a word that gets tossed around a lot these days, but there's a reason for that, because it works. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring life's difficulties. It means choosing to also see what's still good, still meaningful, still worth appreciating even on hard days. Try this. At the end of each day, write down one thing, just one, that brought you a sense of joy, connection, or peace. It could be something as simple as the warmth of the sun on your face, a kind word from a neighbor, or a memory that made you smile. This small act of reflection trains your brain to notice the positive moments that so often go unnoticed. And over time, it builds a kind of inner resilience, a quiet knowing that no matter what happens, there are still things to be grateful for. One woman I spoke with started this practice after her husband passed away. At first, She struggled to find anything to be grateful for. But slowly, she began to notice small joys. The sound of rain, the smell of fresh bread, a letter from an old friend. She told me, I didn't stop missing him, but I found new reasons to keep living. Isn't that beautiful? Gratitude doesn't erase loss, but it makes room for healing. Now, another key element of making mindfulness stick is creating rituals, not routines, but meaningful moments that feel personal and nourishing. A ritual doesn't have to be complicated. It's not about checking something off a list. It's about bringing intention to ordinary moments. Maybe it's lighting a candle before breakfast. Maybe it's taking a slow walk after dinner, or pausing before answering the phone to take a deep breath. These little acts become anchors, reminders that you're not just going through life, but being in it. Think of it like tending a garden. You don't plant seeds once and forget them. You water them regularly, check on them, give them care, and over time they grow. Your mindfulness practice is the same. With gentle, consistent attention, it becomes stronger, not because you force it, but because you tend to it with kindness. Now, before we wrap up this entire series, let's take a moment to review everything we've covered so far. In part 1, we talked about how mindfulness helps us reconnect with the present moment, giving us space between our thoughts and reactions. We explored how it supports emotional resilience and mental clarity, especially as we age. In part 2, we looked at how mindfulness can be woven into everyday activities like walking, eating, and communicating with others. These are simple yet powerful ways to bring more presence into your daily life. In part 3, we discussed how mindfulness can help you relate differently to difficult emotions like loneliness, anxiety, and grief, and even support your relationship with physical discomfort. And now, in this final part, we've focused on how to create a sustainable mindfulness practice through breath, gratitude, and intentional rituals. So let's bring this all together with a few actionable steps you can start implementing today. 1. Start small. Choose one mindful moment each day: a minute of breathing, a slow sip of tea, a pause before speaking. Don't aim for hours of meditation right away. Aim for consistency. 2. Use reminders. Set a gentle alarm on your phone, place a sticky note on your mirror, or tie a ribbon around your wrist, anything that reminds you to pause and return to the present. 3. Keep a journal. Write down one mindful moment or one thing you're grateful for each day. This builds awareness and reinforces the habit. 4. Practice self-compassion. If your mind wanders, if you forget, if you feel like you're not doing it right, that's okay. Mindfulness is not about perfection. It's about showing up with kindness. 5. Share what you learn. Talk to a friend, share a quote, or invite someone to join you in a short mindful walk. Mindfulness grows stronger when shared. Now, as we come to the end of this journey together, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. If you found these insights helpful, please consider subscribing to our channel. Every week, we explore topics like inner peace, self-discovery, and how to live a meaningful life at any age. By subscribing, you'll ensure you never miss a new video filled with wisdom, inspiration, and practical tips designed specifically for people like you. And if you enjoyed this series, I'd be truly grateful if you took a moment to like and share it with someone you love, whether it's a friend, a family member, or even just a neighbor who might benefit from a little more peace in their life. Because ultimately, this is what it's all about: not just learning mindfulness, but living it. Not just watching a video, but carrying its message into your everyday moments. So as we close, I leave you with this thought. You are never too old to discover a new way of living, one rooted in presence, peace, and purpose. You are never too set in your ways to welcome a little more joy, a little more calm, a little more wonder. And above all, you are never alone in this journey. Take a deep breath in, hold it for just a moment, Tan, then slowly exhale. Now, silently say to yourself, I am enough. I am worthy of peace. I am capable of growth. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for showing up for yourself. Until next time, take care, be kind, and remember, peace is always just a breath away.